It's all about efforts underway to break these barriers to the creation of wealth, as we see the Graca Machel Trust just leading to the front in bringing us this summit here in Johannesburg. This is where we see various of those women from the continent just coming under the same umbrella to really just take stock in terms of where the economy is right now on the continent where women are concerned, but also those entrepreneurs coming through with innovative solutions, transformative solutions that will come through with sustainable efforts that would ensure that women are not left behind. The Graca Machel Trust also working on a study here that will give us a sense of what is happening on the continent, what has been happening on the continent, and really those barriers and how then we can foster solutions, as we see that being the key drive here with Mama Graca Machel delivering a keynote address. I'm going to bring into the conversation now the interim CEO of the Graca Machel Trust, who'll just give us a sense, Mam Theo, of what has been happening. I see the morning going into the afternoon, various all-important conversations being held here, us taking stock and also just getting a sense of what has been happening on the ground. One thing that I appreciate is that you have the continent under the same roof, just basically these women entrepreneurs, even male, here to really take stock of on where we can actually come through for these women as we create wealth. Welcome to the SABC. Maybe give us a sense of really the essence behind this summit here, as we see you saying that you've been working also where the study is concerned to close some of those gaps.
So at the Graca Machel Trust, Women Creating Wealth is one of our flagship programs. And that program is doing three things, really. It's working with women entrepreneurs to help them look at how they scale up their businesses. It's working with partners on policy development and looking at what we need to do to break the barriers that stop women having access to finance, access to markets, and really being able to scale their work. And we're also looking at the bridges that we have to make and the changes that we have to make in structures to make sure that there's equitable access to finance and to markets for women and for youth. And it's an amazing journey. The people, I'm sure you've seen them in there. We've got amazing partners. We've got women from South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Senegal, from all over the continent, whose whole focus is how do we break down those barriers? How do we unleash the economic power of women across our continent? Because one thing that we know is that when you put money into the hands of women, when you give women economic security, then you give economic security to our families, to our communities, and to our nations. And that is what we want to do. Unleash the power of women and unleash our huge potential on this continent.
You guys have been working also on a study, and we had you just break it down in terms of what you've picked up on the continent. What are the areas of concern that you've picked up that would see us really confronting this with all of these women that are in the same roof from South Africa, really to the continent, when you look at the study and how really it has uncovered some of these gaps as we go along?
So the study, which we will make sure is made public so other people can look at it in detail, it's telling us things, some of which we already knew, that we have a huge gender gap in terms of the access to finance for women and for men, and for young people and for older people. It's telling us that still digitalization isn't happening equitably across the range. And when that doesn't happen, it holds us back economically. It's telling us that unemployment figures, particularly for young people, are still far too high, particularly on a continent where the vast majority of our people are the youth. And so part of the work of this gathering is for people to share information and to share the strides that are being made. Because even though it is very depressing to look at these gaps still, when we've been talking about trying to close gender gaps for many years, it is depressing to know that we still have a way to go. On the other hand, we can see that we've come from far. So it's a journey, but we're on that journey. And at this conference, people will share their learning, and they'll share the opportunities, and they'll share the initiatives that have worked. They'll be able to look at places like the central bank in Tanzania, who put out a directive to the banks in Tanzania about the level of female participation on the boards of banks, and saw a change, and then saw fellow central banks putting out similar directives. So we know that there are ways in which we can break these barriers. We want to share those so that if something is working well in South Africa, we can try and make it work well in Ghana. If something is working well in Senegal, people from Zimbabwe can learn from that. Because when we learn together, when we act together, we make impact.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. The bell is ringing, so it's kind of giving us a sense that we have to let you go so you can go back inside. But we hear the interim CEO of the Graca Machel Trust saying that it's possible, right, to ensure that we position women, and we also see them saying that this is a learning process. They've given themselves 4 years to ensure that there are at least 10,000 of those women that have been pushed into the space of wealth. And we hear Graca Machel as well saying that really, when you look at it, a transformative collaboration that would move from partnerships to solidarity is what then will see some of these issues then attended to just in terms of the longer term whereby these solutions are concerned. I'm Katla for SABC News in Melrose Arch, Johannesburg.